Hi, everyone. This is new for me, live streaming on multiple places. So I was just logging in a few minutes early to make sure it's all set up correctly. And I actually even ran into a couple issues. I started this process 10 minutes early. So knowing that Mercury is retrograde, I wanted to be prepared. So get settled in or arrive. For anybody who doesn't know what's going on, I'm doing a live broadcast on the Astrology of 2023. It's broadcasting from my Facebook professional page, which is facebook.com/Divine Harmony Astrology. It's also live streaming on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Divine Harmony Astrology. It's only on the Facebook page that I'm going to be able to periodically check comments and that I can post some links to things as I reference different blogs I've written about something or whatever. I can't do that in two places at once. So if you're on YouTube and you want to engage in chat, maybe go over to Facebook, and you have a few minutes for that process because I need to make sure I have everything set up. So I'm going to go to Facebook myself real quick and open my streaming and mute myself there so I don't have feedback, which is what I'm told I have to do in order to be able to check the comments. So if you hear some weird feedback for a second, I apologize. Oh, good. It's already on. Let's see. I don't know how I'm supposed to see the comments. Let's try this again. So if anybody's just hopping in now, I got on a couple minutes early so that I can get this set up. Here we go. Wonderful. Hi, Crystal. Hi, Avin. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong. Okay, so I have Facebook open periodically. I can check in. There is a delay on Facebook, and then there's sound from Facebook. So I have it on mute so it doesn't interrupt. And feel free to pop in the chat and say hi if you're on Facebook. If you're listening on YouTube, any of the links I mention in the talk, I will have them reposted on my website, divineharmony.com. After we're done with this talk, I'll be posting this on my website under yearly astrology forecast. So now let me see. I'm not recording yet, so let's just okay, I have one other thing to do here, and then we'll get ready to go. Let's see. How do I get out of this? Sorry, like I said, I'm sort of new to this, doing this streaming thing. Okay, there we go. And it's going to be interesting to see how I can navigate speaking and checking in on Facebook, but I can do a lot of things at once. So let's just see how it goes. All right, please let me know if you can see my screen share. You should be able to see the 2023 yearly forecast event PowerPoint. And then maybe you see me a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to make sure I have Facebook accessible. And then we're going to start. Hello. Okay, I can see everybody saying hi. Hi. Okay, great. Belinda, Meredith, Constanza, Mike, thank you for saying hello. And then I'm just going to tuck that away. You see the screenshot. What screenshot? There should be my PowerPoint screen share. Okay, great. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's get rolling on the, I just have to click record, and then we will be good to go. Record to the cloud. Okay. All right, welcome everybody. This is Harmony, Divine Harmony. Yes, my real name is Harmony. My astrology name is Divine Harmony. And this is a 2023 yearly forecast event on the first day of 2023, January 1st. We're streaming at 4 p.m. Eastern time. For anybody tuning in, I'm streaming on a couple different places. I'm actually recording this on Zoom, but I didn't send a Zoom invite out to anybody. So you're tuning in either via my Facebook page, my professional page, which is facebook.com/Divine Harmony Astrology, or you're on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Divine Harmony Astrology. If you want to chime in the chat, that has to be done on Facebook. You can comment on YouTube, but I won't see those comments till after the talk is over. Towards the end, I'll have some links to give out, and I'm going to put those in the chat on Facebook. And then when I repost this talk on my website, which I'll do later tonight, I'll post the links I mentioned in the blog on my website, so you can access them there as well. So I hope you're all having a beautiful start to a new year. We have a very big new year incoming. There's some considerable significant shifts. And I do a yearly forecast video every year. I typically pre-record it and just post it. And then a few days ago, I had this inspiration. Why don't you just live stream it? I've not done this on multiple channels before, so I spent like 2.5 hours trying to figure that out. And now we're here. So thanks for being with me and spending time with me on your first day of the new year. So we're going to discuss the major astrology of 2023. We're going to look at the numerology and the tarot actually throughout. I weave the tarot in with my astrology teachings in a lot of my classes, and I'm bringing that into this space here too. We'll talk about Saturn moving into Pisces, Pluto moving into Aquarius, the Aries activations happening, the Taurus triggers happening, the solar and lunar eclipses, the retrogrades, and more. So this is an overview, and then each month I do monthly forecasts, and then each week I do weekly forecasts. And in those, I go into more detail, and I'll add in more minor aspects and asteroids. But this is the overview for the year ahead. If you stay till the end, I actually have an offer to gift to you that I'll put in the chat in Facebook, and then you can email me if you're on YouTube if you want it. And I will also be closing with a guided meditation. So you're welcome to stay for the whole thing, and then ideally for the end to be able to be undisturbed for a good 10 to 15 minutes, so you can drop in is ideal. If for any reason that's not working for you, you're driving a car or at a busy coffee shop, you can save that for later. Again, I'll repost the video and you can tune into meditation when you have time. So let's dive in. This is just about me. I mean, you probably know who I am, but anyhow, I'm Harmony. My website is divineharmony.com. I've been studying astrology since 1996, so 26 years. I'm actually heading almost to my Saturn return for my astrology studies, which was kind of like a big aha when I was writing this down. I've been doing readings and writing blogs and forecasts for 15 years, heading to my Saturn opposition, which I actually have my Saturn opposition this year. And so at my Saturn return 15 years ago is when I started doing readings and writing as an astrologer. I've been teaching for almost 12 years. So then this year's my Jupiter return as a teacher. This was all like aha stuff when I was writing my bio. I was like, oh, looking at the cycles. Anyhow, my background is depth psychology. I have my master's degree in depth psychology from Pacifica Graduate Institute. I also have a Bachelor of Art in Psychology. I'm an initiated priestess. I've been studying shadow work with my teacher, Robert Masters, for the last 6 years. I'm a writer, a teacher, a mother, a priestess, an astrologer, a mythologist, and a mystic. And I really, really, really love my work. And I'm so grateful that what I do is what I love and that it serves. So thanks for being here. So we're going to just dive right in to the year. So 2023, there's a few ways to look at the numerology around a year. One of them is just literally add up each individual digit. So 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 3. And of course, that adds to 7. And so last year, 2022, was a 6 year. And now we're in a 7 year. And 7 is a very deeply spiritual number. It's all about seeking truth, being in the pursuit of truth. The 7th card in the tarot is the Chariot or Cancer card. And you can look at the numbers. If you know your tarot, there's 22 major arcana cards. 0 is the Fool, and then 1 through 21, Magician through the World. And you can do the numerology for the year and look at the card that has like an underlying energy. But as you can see here, number 2 and 3, there's also other underlying energies. Just ignore that for a sec, and let's just talk about the Chariot card. So what's so interesting to me is Chariot is the Cancer card. And this card for me is actually the weirdest card in terms of astrological association in the majors. As a Cancer sun, with a lot of Cancer in my chart and my moon on my ascendant, this image of a man who has his lower body stuck in a cement block covered in armor is not the right image for Cancer. Cancer is this nurturing, mothering, sensitive. What you could see, though, is he could be having all his armor because he's protecting himself from his soft inside. But it's interesting imagery. It's the one major where I'm like, So for me, when I'm looking at this card, what I see that is resonant with Cancer, especially the highest aspect of Cancer, would be the 2 sphinxes at the bottom, the black and white sphinxes with their breasts, which is the area of the body that Cancer governs. They are the Cancer mother energy in this chart. If you look at the glyph that I have to the left, that 69 sort of, that's the Cancer glyph. And it can look like 2 breasts. It can also look like a yin and yang with the dark and light sphinx representing the yin and yang energy in this card. The man in the card appears to be armored and cut off from his emotions. He's got a cement block from his sacral down. If you look closely here, let me see if I can use my little, do you see this? He's like merging with cement. And, this can show being cut off from his emotions, being cut off from his lower body chakras, both the shadow and, the full power of them, or rigidly controlling the full power of them. This is what the unhealthy masculine does to the feminine essence. The unhealthy masculine within all of us, so I'm not talking about men or women here, I'm talking about essence. The unhealthy masculine will look at the feminine as something to control, like those 2 sphinxes leading the Chariot. Yet this warrior in the Chariot doesn't yet realize she is who he needs to follow. She will lead him where he needs to go, but he needs to surrender to her. And so our masculine essence is our active ego, moving out into the world. But our feminine essence is our love, our receptivity. The feminine within us is what receives inspiration. And then the masculine acts on that inspiration. So the masculine actually has to take his direction from the feminine. And this is an internal experience that I'm talking about here. The imagery in this card seems to show ego, which in and of itself is not a bad thing. Ego is a container for spirit. We need healthy egos to be in the world. The problem is when the ego gets rigid, controlling, and dogmatic, stuck in cement, and then cut off from the source of life that comes from the realms of soul and spirit. So he's hardened in cement. His root chakra, his sacral chakra, his hips, his legs, his feet are all imprisoned in this cement block. And he's living from the solar plexus up and not aware of what's going on down there in his lower body because he's cut off from it. So when we live from our upper chakras, we express more the shadow of the lower because we're not dealing with them. We'll either repress them and be cut off from their full power, or we'll act out of them in shadowy, unconscious ways. And so, fears around safety and security, root chakra, as well as sexual obsession and repressed emotion, sacral chakra, or even anima possession, which is when our inner masculine is taken over by our emotions. Anybody who's in astrology in your shadow knows that one. This can be some of the shadow of this card. We can perhaps see in this card the sun, S-O-N, of the Great Mother as the sun, S-U-N. He clearly comes from her with all the celestial imagery on his body. He has these stars above him. He has a star in his crown, moons on his shoulder. He has astrology symbols across his belt. And remember, as I said, the 7 is a number of seeking truth. You know, this can also very much connect to this card because he's all armored up, ready to go and find something, conquer something. He has not yet realized that the journey is within. He has to get to the hermit in the sequence of the majors in order to realize that. And he needs to pass through strength, which is the next card after this one, to find the strength to stop chasing outside and instead turn within. So positively, this card governing this year can speak to the capacity to find greater mastery over our will and ego. It is in its best, energy, a card of victory, success, having willpower, being in control. But we want right use of will and power. And we want to only control the one thing that matters, which is ourselves. Negatively, though, this card is about coming at life from the ego and the egoic will. And it's about trying to control and secure power and control and dominate nature. And, that's the shadow to be aware of. Rachel Pollack, who has an amazing book on the tarot, it's called 78 Degrees of Wisdom. I tell all my students to get that book. She says this card symbolizes civilization. So when we take the wild, primal life force and we harness it. But for me, this card, the way he is appearing, especially with the cement block, it doesn't look like he's fluid in the harnessing of it. He's rigid, he's boxed in, he's fixed, he's controlling. And so he needs to wake up to how to harness this life force without putting it in a cement block, essentially. For me, the key to this card is to surrender our will and ego to something higher than ourselves. And also we need to deal with what's locked away in the cement block part of this card, what's in the lower body and the lower chakras, the root chakra, sacral chakra, shadows. So this year we want to watch out for crystallizing our egos, and we want to be aware of surrendering and letting the divine feminine, our hearts, inspiration lead us. And on offer is an opportunity for really learning how to harness our willpower so that we are making our intentions and directing ourselves somewhere, and then we follow it, with action and with awareness of the light and the shadow of those two sphinxes. Now, another way of looking at the numerology is to look at the numbers that show up that can relate to cards. So another way of looking at 2023 is the 20th card, the second card, and the third card. And that 20th is the judgment card, which is the Pluto card. If I had to say there was a winner for the astrology this year, it would be Pluto. Saturn would be second. And so we've got the Pluto card with the two feminine cards. The High Priestess is number 2. She's the moon card. And Empress is the third card, Venus. And so for me, this is speaking to, and here's the cards. Judgment is the Pluto card. High Priestess is the moon card. And Empress is the Venus card. So you see here 20, and then 2, and then 3. And so judgment is about resurrection, and it's about waking up, and something is, finally coming back to life, or is awakening. And, it's interesting. One of the things I love about this card, or that I pay attention to, I guess, the most, is that she is taller. The angel is, blaring the divine music over her outstretched arm. She's receiving the inspiration from the divine. And then she shares that with her beloved, her partner, and her child. And so the whole majors, if you look at the majors in a sequence, the whole story is one of returning to the feminine essence and allowing her to lead. And go look at the majors when we get off this call. So This is not just about women or beings with wombs, although there is a piece to that. There is a rising of the feminine as expressed through women and beings with wombs that's happening because of the imbalance. But this is most deeply about inner essence. This is about leading from the feminine, which is our heart, our emotions, our empathy, our compassion, our intuition. The High Priestess is a deeply intuitive card. The feminine is the chalice and the masculine is the sword. The feminine receives spirit in the chalice. The waters of life fill her. And then the masculine protects her with the sword and keeps her safe so she can walk the earth unharmed, which is a Cherokee prophecy. So the High Priestess is the moon card and the Empress is the Venus card, and they're the two feminine cards. And the two bodies in astrology, the basic 10 planets that are, hold the feminine energy. And so for me, I'm seeing this huge resurrection of the feminine principle on offer this year. The High Priestess, there's a lot to say about these two cards, but I'm keeping it short. The High Priestess is incredibly intuitive. Psychic is about the inner experience. She meditates, she journeys, she goes into the archetypal world. Whereas the Empress, she's embodied and she's sensual and she's merged with nature. She's not going in somewhere else. She's being very present without. And both of these aspects of the feminine are needed. If we're only internal, we'll be cut off from life. If we're only externally focused, we will cut ourselves off from our inner experience. And so we have this on offer. And then another way of looking at the numbers is the individual. And so then we just have the High Priestess twice, 2, 0 as the Fool card, 2 High Priestess again, and then 3 as Empress. This is just a way to break it down and see kind of more subtle energies. The Fool card is the Uranus card. And actually 2022, I called in my forecast for last year, the year of Uranus. Like we had that Uranus North Node conjunction. We had eclipses conjunct Uranus. Even the first day of last year, we had Sun trine Uranus. I mean, it was just like all over the map. And so the Fool card is the Uranus card. And when you combine Uranus with the two feminine principles, with the High Priestess twice and the Empress once, then we see an awakening of the feminine. And again, a whole new chapter or even volume that wants to be written unfolding. Interestingly, Uranus is in Taurus, which is a Venus ruled sign. I wrote a blog about it. It's called Uranus in Taurus, a revolution of embodiment, or maybe it's the embodiment revolution. I always forget what I said. But it's all about being here now in the body on this earth, paying attention to what the earth is saying, what our bodies are saying, tuning in and trusting the wisdom of the body. And many spiritual traditions actually seem to deny the body and imply that it's lower or lesser than. But in Egyptian mysticism, the Aufu, which is the physical body, there's sometimes seen to be 5 bodies, 7 bodies. There's different teachings, but Aufu is the physical body. There's astral and the Ka and the Sahu, the spirit body. There's all kinds. So Aufu is actually the most important because it houses all the other bodies. Your spirit, your soul, your heart, your mind, where does it all reside? In your physical body. And so our body is our temple. It's the sacred home of our soul and our spirit. And our earth, our planet Earth, is also our temple. It's the sacred home of humanity. So the Fool card added into the mix can be about game-changing events, about waking us up to this level of consciousness, of awareness of the earth and of the body and what it means to fully be here. And, that can be also an offer. I'm just going to check on Facebook to make sure I'm still streaming because I just have no idea what's going on. That's so interesting. I think it's working, right? Hold on. I just had to refresh the page. And then after I check once and I know I'm good to go, then I won't check again. Am I still going? Yes. Good. I'm still going. Okay, wonderful. So let's minimize that for now because I don't need to look at it at this moment. Okay, so moving on. The start of the year kicks off with a ton of things. Like, it's such an interesting way to start the year. So we had Venus conjunct Pluto early this morning. That was Eastern time. It was like 12:30 or something a.m. Eastern time. So it was actually later in the evening, New Year's Eve, if you're on the Pacific coast. If you're in Europe, it's definitely on January 1st. So you kind of have to adjust for your time zone accordingly. But as I said, Pluto, if I had to say one planet wins for the, number one spot this year, it would be Pluto. And we get Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, activating Pluto as the first aspect of the new year. We also have Mercury retrograde, and this is a doozy of a Mercury retrograde. I have a blog about it. You can find it on my website, divineharmony.com. Up in the top toolbar under Cosmic Insight, just go down to Astrology blog and then you'll see it. And, on the front end, he's stationed retrograde in a double square to Eris. And on the back end, he'll station direct in a double quincunx to Mars. So Eris, the goddess of discord and chaos, and Mars, the god of war and anger and ego, are dominating the Mercury retrograde. And there's all kinds of crazy things that have been happening. You've seen it in the news, these storms and, things happening. Oh, actually here where I live in Asheville, a ton of people were without water, some of them since Christmas Eve. I happen to live somewhere where I didn't get affected, but a lot of people were affected. I saw this on the Facebook boards and people saying, I have small children and I couldn't bathe them for like 6 days. It was pretty intense. And there was, the Southwest Airlines snafus and all the cancellations. Mercury governs travel and technology and communication. So we're still in it, which I was just like, putting a field of light and blessing around the Zoom today. We did get out of the double square to Eris portal. That was Tuesday through Saturday of this previous week. Mars is still retrograde. He doesn't station direct till January 12th. So we're still in the underworld of the god of war, will, and drive. I have more to say on him later in the talk. The sun reaches perihelion January 4th. And so January 4th is the day that the sun and Earth come closest, or Earth actually comes closest to the sun. Aphelion is when Earth is furthest from the sun. And so we have this interesting portal, actually, especially this year, because there's an added piece to it. From December 21st through January 4th, we have a new sun, winter solstice, December 21st. New moon was December 23rd. New year is today. This one has nothing to do with any stellar, solar, or lunar cycles. This is a Gregorian calendar obscured date. But then we have the perihelion point of the sun. And when the sun and Earth are closest, they look conjunct at the 14th degree of Capricorn. They're opposite Sirius. So if you go out at midnight, January 3rd through 4th, and go look up at midnight, you'll see Sirius culminating overhead at night. So it's a stargate. So we've got a solar gateway, a lunar gateway, and a stargate all happening from December 21st of 2022 until January 4th. And it's like got extra potent new cycle energy, new beginning energy. We also have the Jupiter perihelion January 20th. This happens once every 20 years. Sun perihelion happens every year around January 4th. Because of leap year, it can range. It can be the 5th or even early the 6th, sometimes the 3rd, I think. Jupiter has a 12-year cycle. So Jupiter only does this once every 12 years. So we're having the sun closest to Earth and Jupiter closest to the sun. And it's amplifying the energies of the sun and Jupiter. Positively, the radiance and light of the sun, and activating our sense of self. And positively, Jupiter is the planet of expansion and abundance. but also can be over the top energy too. Too much Sun Jupiter can be ego, hubris, magnifying things, especially because Jupiter's in Aries. And we'll talk about that in a moment. And so that's all just kicking us off here in the very first period of time in the new year. And that's how we enter into 2023. So let's talk about Saturn. I'm going to talk about the two ingresses, Saturn and Pluto first, and then we'll talk about some of the other things. This is a beautiful image Susie Farmer made for me. She's a dear sister and priestess and beautiful creatrix, and she makes a lot of the images for me for my classes and my webinars and masterclasses. And this is one of the images she's made. So this is Saturn. Saturn is the lord of karma and the father of time. He is the planet of reality and stability and responsibility. He's the planet of growing up. Saturn return, we all get 29, 30. Technically you become an adult at 18, you can drink, at 21, but 29 is like the time of spiritual maturity, because Saturn returns and asks you to grow up and start making big decisions, whether it's letting things go or, starting things and starting to set foundations for things you're going to build on. Saturn, governs that kind of energy. He also governs mastery and boundaries, but also limitation, restriction, karma, depression, and repression. Saturn rules both Capricorn and Aquarius. Aquarius's contemporary ruler is Uranus, but the ancient ruler is Saturn. And Saturn is deeply connected to the patriarchy as the great father archetype. Saturn is moving into Pisces. Now, Pisces, this is also made by Susie. This is the last of the tropical zodiac signs. And it is a deeply mystical, spiritual, intuitive, psychic sign. I have a lot of Pisces in my chart, and it's like, I can just tell you from experience, like I can go into bliss states, like hearing music or seeing nature. It's easy to go into that mystical, transcendent place when you have a lot of Pisces. It can be very inspired, compassionate, altruistic, and empathic. The shadow of Pisces is being so open that it gets overwhelming. So then you check out and you escape and you spiritual bypass. You turn to addictions to numb out. You're deceptive and dishonest, first and foremost with yourself, but also perhaps with others, because you want to see all love and light. You don't really want to see or deal with the shadow. That's the shadow of Pisces. And so Saturn is moving into this last sign. Now, this amazing image of a sea goat is by Magi Stream. I found this when I was looking for sea goat. I wanted like a captivating sea goat image. And apparently this came from some like website where I think it's like a game, and like you can have all these different, I don't even know how to describe it. It's not like, yeah, it was some kind of game thing. And they had all these different avatars you could be, and they happened to have Capricorn goats, and they had them in different colors. And I was just like, wow, that's like the most epic Capricorn sea goat I think I've ever seen, with the jewel on his third eye and the glorious blue everywhere. I think it's evocative. Anyhow, Saturn moves into Pisces March 7th, 2023. And for me, and anybody who is in my Stargate Mystery School right now, we'll be talking about this quite a bit. We need to reclaim the sea goat attributions of Capricorn. Contemporarily, in like, contemporary astrology, usually people just talk about Capricorn as the mountain goat. And sometimes you'll even see images of him as a goat with like legs. But the original conception of Capricornus was as a sea goat, with the goat on the top and the fish tail on the bottom. And he needs his tail actually to connect to the primordial waters of Nun, as they call it in Egypt, but the great mother that he both came from and returns to, his source, who he sources from. And so Saturn moving into Pisces is so interesting, because Saturn is form, and Saturn is grounding, and Saturn is manifestation and also mastery. And so we can take the mystical and spiritual awarenesses, our psychic gifts and intuitive gifts, and we can bring them into form. We can ground them into our being. But Saturn is also repression and limitation and control. And we can also have this like cut us off from trusting that, and perhaps even throwing us more into the fear energy of Pisces. Pisces is connected to the collective unconscious, and everything's there, and a lot of what's down there are things that people don't even want to see or look at. And so Saturn governs fear, and Pisces can bring up all the fears we didn't want to, see or acknowledge, both personally and also collectively. And so Saturn into Pisces is really interesting. Now, from a living sky perspective, and anybody who's in my Stargate Mystery School knows this, this is the position here of, this is stellarium, screenshot of the sky via stellarium for March 7th, when Saturn ingresses Pisces. And you can see, where do you see Saturn? Might be hard to see, it's kind of small. Saturn's right here. And Saturn is actually just moving into Aquarius. Here's Pisces, actual Pisces, literal living sky astrology. Saturn is heading into Aquarius. Technically, Aquarius goes all the way over here. And so he can even have been transiting in Aquarius for a while, but he's definitely not heading into Pisces in terms of actual Pisces. And that's important to understand because that energy, the Aquarian energy, is also going to be impacting this transit. It's actual Aquarius, it's tropical Pisces. If you don't know the differences, I'm not going to get too much into it, but tropical astrology is based on the seasons. So when the first day of spring happens, that's Sun at 0 Aries in the Northern Hemisphere. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, your day of spring would be 0 Libra. And that is the point at which we anchor the degrees and the zodiac signs. The living sky is different because we fixed that. And that is now never changing, but the living sky is constantly moving. And so there's a disparity. They both have truth. And the living sky piece is a big piece that's missing at looking at things and understanding things. And so I teach that in Stargate Mystery School. So Saturn is the world card. And we've got Saturn moving into Pisces. Pisces is the moon card. And then Pisces is ruled by Neptune, and Neptune is the Hanged Man card. So we just feel into this transit, right, of Saturn into Pisces with world, moon, and Hanged Man. The world card, first of all, it's a woman, and she's surrounded by this Ouroboros with these infinity sashes. She's got this purple sash wrapped around her, almost like a serpent. She is the last card, the world card, which is a card of completion and full merging with the universe. The lower self and the higher self in union shows up as a feminine bodied being. And that's because the feminine is the source and the feminine needs to lead. So this is the Saturn card on the left. We've got the 4 fixed signs being shown. The man is Aquarius. The eagle is Scorpio. The lion is Leo, and Taurus is the bull. The moon card is a card that's governed by Pisces, not the moon, because remember the high priestess was the moon. So Pisces is the moon card. And it has to do with emotions and intuition and imagination and all that rich kind of imagery, but it also governs fear and fantasy, and even, being psychologically unhinged by all that comes up from those waters. You can see on the left, there's a nice little doggy. On the right, it looks like kind of a rabid wolf. And then out of the water comes this lobster. It's like our animal drives, our passions, our fears, what's submerged in the unconscious can come up with the moon card. And so, for me, when I see world and the moon, it's like we have to deal with our emotions. And Saturn can bring structure and help us do just that. We have to deal with our fears. We can't keep stuffing them, denying them, turning to addictions to numb out from them. Because as long as they're down there undigested, they're running us. The Hanged Man, the Neptune card, is all about surrender. We need to turn upside down like he does. His head's now at the bottom, and now he's got fully illuminated by doing this. We need a new perspective, and in doing so, we become enlightened. And in order to deal with the emotions coming up, we can't come at them like the Chariot. We have to come at them like the Hanged Man. So these are the energies behind the Saturn into Pisces transit. Here's the Ingress chart. Saturn moves into Pisces 8:35 a.m. Eastern time from where I'm living. This chart was cast on March 7th. And just a few things I was noticing in the Ingress chart. There's a ton of Pisces, right? Sun, Mercury, Saturn, Neptune, but there's also a ton of Aries. And Pisces is the last sign. Aries is the first sign. Pisces is Omega. Aries is Alpha. Pisces is dissolving into the sea of the unconscious, and Aries is coming out of it and saying, I'm ready to go. Aries is the baby being born, and Pisces is the old man, the old woman at the end of life. So we've got an interesting thing there. We've got Pluto at the 29th degree of Capricorn, and Saturn is the dispositor of this Pluto. Pluto's in Capricorn, the sign of Saturn. So Saturn disposes of Pluto in Capricorn. And Saturn in Pisces is actually going to be very tied into Pluto's transit over the karmic completion degree of 29 Capricorn this year and next year. That's in a few more slides down. So I'm just going to pause on that for a second. But Saturn is the dispositor of Pluto whenever he's in Capricorn, but he's also the dispositor of Pluto when he's in Aquarius as well as ancient ruler. We'll also look at Uranus for Pluto and Aquarius. So we've got all of this Aries, Jupiter, Chiron, Venus conjunct with Vesta. There's something here about healing around our masculine, our anger, our fire, our rage, our agency. Vesta shows devotion. So we want to be devoted to our healing and devoted on taking action around what needs to be healed. What else kind of jumps out at me? Well, Saturn actually is semi-sextile Pluto. They're both ingressing into a new sign in the same month, March. Put 5 stars around that one on your calendar. And so Saturn is exactly semi-sextile by 20 seconds exact Pluto. And so they're linked together harmoniously. This is a nod to the fact that Saturn and Pluto were conjunct in January of 2020. That was the seeding of a new Saturn-Pluto cycle. You could envision that as like the new moon, We have a new moon, but we can't see it. Because if you were to go out and look at the new moon, it's not visible. But then as we get to the crescent moon, then we start seeing a little sliver. We've got the crescent moon energy of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that began a new cycle in 2020 coming in this year. More on that in a moment. We have a full moon. Sun is opposite moon in Virgo, and this Virgo moon is opposite Neptune, widely opposite Mercury, opposite Saturn by sign opposition. It's a very wide orb for an opposition. But the full moon is showing us that something needs to come to fruition, to climax, or to crisis points. We have to balance the Virgo discernment with the Pisces mysticism and spirituality. The shadow of Pisces wanting to spiritually bypass and check out is balanced by Virgo, actually, because Virgo goes, let's look at it all. Let's see the details. Let's, be clear. And so that full moon can be showing us what we're not seeing clearly. So that's just my overview on the chart. In embodied astrology, if you've been in my embodied astrology class, you know this, you have all the practices. Saturn governs the root chakra, Pisces in the body governs the feet. So we've got the 2 parts of the body that have to do with rooting, grounding, and being on the earth. Root chakra, lowest chakra in the body, that connects us to earth. Feet are on the earth, you know? And so these are these two parts of the body that speak to that. Neptune, as dispositor of Saturn and Pisces, Neptune is in the higher heart, has to do with compassion and altruism, but also has connection with the crown chakra along with Jupiter. So we've got love and this spirit energy, but then when we have root and feet. So it's like, can we ground those mystical energies? Can we contain and embody spirit? Saturn can bring in lessons and opportunities for mastery around this. Saturn can also bring in karmic circumstances around where we've been escaping this, avoiding it, not doing it. You know, Saturn is the Lord of karma. So, you know, spiritual bypassing, I kind of mentioned that earlier in a slide, but spiritual bypassing is when we use spirituality to avoid facing our pain. So it's when we put a veil over our eyes and we don't want to see, but, you know, and then we'll see through illusion, confusion, deception, fear, fantasy, like the shadow of the moon card. But like this image here, if we close our eyes and allow this eye to lead us, our real eye, to realize with our third eye, which Pisces also has connection to because of the intuitive piece. So Saturn and Pisces is a great time to get serious, focused, grounded, disciplined, and more masterful around spirituality and mysticism. In the Grail myth, Pisces is the waters in the Grail, right? And then Saturn would be like the Grail containing that. And so we've got to ground and contain the mystical waters of spirit, and Saturn and Pisces can help us. Saturn is also the great pruning shears. So he comes in to like cut the weeds, you know? And so he may come in and show us what needs to be cut out of our life, like a weed that's hindering our spiritual growth. Maybe something around our diet, or if we're drinking too much, if we're checking out on Netflix too much, if we're, you know, scrolling on Instagram for 2 hours every night instead of meditating, or whatever, anything else that applies. Check in, honest self check-ins. When Saturn moves through Pisces, he will activate 2 very powerful stargates. Fomalhaut is one of the 4 royal fixed stars, and it speaks to success through noble ideas. And Saturn will be conjunct April 15th, and that will be a powerful time, actually, as, you know, one of the 4 watchers of the directions getting activated. Anybody in Stargate Mystery School will be obviously talking about that one a lot. And Deneb Adige is, and Fomalhaut's at like 411 Pisces, and Deneb is 516 Pisces, or I forget. Deneb Adige is a super luminous star in Cygnus the Swan. It's one of the most luminous stars. It's 200,000 times more luminous than our sun. It just happens to be like 1,500 light years away, so we can't tell visually, but it is. It's a very powerful mystical stargate, and Saturn will be conjunct May 4th. In Stargate Mystery School, you'll be learning about that one more too. So here's just some dates. You're welcome to screenshot or take a picture if you want. Saturn moves into Pisces March 7th. Saturn will sextile the mean north node in Taurus April 19th. There can be important insights or connections made that come in that show us our path of destiny and growth and what needs to be cleared and dealt with karmically. Saturn stations retrograde June 17th. Saturn will semi-square Chiron and Aries twice when in Pisces. He does it one time when in Aquarius before he moves into Pisces. So all throughout the year, Saturn and Chiron semi-square. These are the 2 heavy hitters, 2 of the biggest heavy hitters. You know, Saturn's our karma, our limitations, where we're hard on ourselves, our inner critic. And Chiron is our wounds and pain, the wounded healer, you know, the places where we need to cultivate more self-awareness and do the work of healing. And so Saturn and Chiron are really going to kind of push us to our edge around where healing needs to happen and where karma needs to be cleared. We have a benevolent Jupiter-Saturn sextile June 19th, the 2 teacher planets and 2 feminine yin signs harmoniously linking. It's a great time for teaching, for learning, for going on a retreat or taking a course, or, connecting to your inner guru. It can be very expansive. Jupiter in Taurus is a grounding influence. Taurus is one of the signs, the earth signs of the body. So it's not about floating off the planet. It's about taking that Pisces mystical energy and then bringing it in, practically applying it, bringing it into form and manifestation. Saturn stations direct at 0 degrees 30 Pisces, November 4th. So once Saturn moves into Pisces, does not go back in Aquarius anymore. He's in Pisces for good. And then the other semi-square is November 25th. The next slide is just showing you what Saturn in Aquarius does this year, starting now until the ingress. So we do have Saturn semi-sextile Neptune on January 6th, which is a beautiful link of root and heart and crown. And again, grounding the mystical intuitive energies, doing something with your creativity, your intuition, your inspiration, not just leaving it in the ethers. Saturn actually sextiles standstill direct Eris in Aries on the 15th of January. Eris stations direct 4 days before. This is the third and final one. So this was actually a signature last year, and it finishes up. What's going to be amazing is they're both direct. Eris is at standstill. We've kind of had a doozy of intense Eris aspects these last years. She was only discovered in 2005. We had Uranus conjunct Eris and Pluto square Eris and Saturn square Eris and Jupiter square Eris. And it was just like one thing after another. Karmic South Node quincunx Eris. This has been a harmonious aspect, and it's been helping us harness the Eris energy. She's called the goddess of discord and chaos, and she gets a bad rap. She's also an activist and a warrior for truth. She's strong in the charts of Joan of Arc. You can see her archetype in Wonder Woman. And so, there's a very positive frequency to Eris, and Saturn's been helping us harness that. So, this is the last of 3. And then that first Saturn semi-square Chiron happens February 23rd when Saturn's in Aquarius. And then we also have, just before Saturn ingresses, we have that exact semi-sextile between Saturn and Pluto that I pointed out in the chart. 4 days before Saturn moves into a new sign. And it's kind of just touching on that crescent moon phase that we're now entering into of the Saturn-Pluto cycle that began in 2020. I have more to say on that when we get to Pluto. Here's Pluto, image made for me by Susie Farmer. So Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth and transformation and empowerment and shadow dancing. He comes to expose what no one is looking at. And ultimately, he helps us purge, detox, and release. I call him the roto-rooter of the zodiac. So he comes in to clear out the stuck, stagnant crap. And, just like a colonic, for example, if you're eating really healthy and you're regularly, going to the bathroom, colonic will be more easy. But if you're eating all kinds of crap and you're backed up, colonic's going to be more intense. Pluto is like that. He would govern colonics. He is a planet of catharsis, and catharsis etymologically comes from katharos, Greek katharos, which means pure, clear of dirt, clean, spotless, open, free, clear of shame or guilt, and purified. So Pluto comes in to purify us. But in order to be purified, anything toxic has to be exposed. And anybody who's done any kind of health healing on themselves, they know about detox crises. It's when you start detoxing, it's, usually that's when your symptoms will flare up and it'll be intense and you'll have the headaches and your stomach will hurt because it's starting to move things through. Of course, the detox symptoms are worse when you've got more backed up and you haven't been eating clean and you don't have your detox pathways open, which is, anyhow, if you're going to detox, make sure you've got your detox pathways open and work with a health practitioner on that one. So Pluto is moving into Aquarius, and this is also made by Susie. Aquarius is an air sign, even though it looks like water, the image, the glyph on the left, it is an air sign. It's in the watery part of the sky, though, and there's an image I'll show you about that in a moment. It's the sign of humanity, of collective consciousness, a community, friendship, social group. It's the sign connected to the planet of the higher mind. Uranus is the contemporary ruler of Aquarius. Saturn is the ancient ruler. And the capacity for brilliance and genius in the sign and connected to Uranus is powerful. Now, the shadow of Aquarius is we want to come from the mind and not the body and not the heart. Aquarius goes up into the head to analyze and look at everything, but needs to drop down in and feel both the body and emotions. The shadow of Aquarius can also be seen in artificial intelligence and some of the things that artificial intelligence, thinks is positive, but is actually cutting us off from our humanity. So Pluto moves into Aquarius March 23rd. Pluto is moving into the sign of Uranus, but also Saturn. And it is a very significant age of Aquarius activation. I have a whole webinar on this. It's called Anchoring the Age of Aquarius, and it's available on my website on demand. And Pluto moving into the first degree of Aquarius is like the next big level activation of this age that we are in now, but is still coming into form. And well, not coming into form. It's a baby and it's growing. So let's put it that way. What's interesting is Pluto is actually just entering into the actual water constellations. Pluto, and the next image I'll show you in a second, speaks to that. So Pluto's orbit is 246 years. And earlier, that wasn't today, it was yesterday, I literally went over the next 250-year cycle and wrote down and broke it down just to see the exact years for each sign. So for the next 246 years, Pluto moving to Aquarius this year until the next time Pluto first enters Aquarius, we've got Pluto moving through signs ranging from 12 years to 32 years. So Pluto's in Libra for 12 years and Scorpio, 12 years and 3 months, one of them is. Pluto is in Taurus and Gemini for 30 and 32 years, or might be the reverse. Pluto will be in tropical Aquarius for 20 years. Pluto has an erratic orbit. So he's not like Saturn, where you can say every 2.5 years, or Jupiter once a year changes sign. You can't clock it in your head. You need to look at the software. And so we've got Pluto ingressing, starting to move into Aquarius. He will go back and forth, though, between Capricorn and Aquarius this year and next year. And it's a big activation of the age of Aquarius. I love this image. For me, it's of Pluto, the Lord of the underworld, and shows the benevolence of Pluto. I don't know who made this image because their name is in Japanese glyphs, it appears to be. If I'm wrong, they're actually, maybe it's Chinese. I'm sorry if I don't know what those characters are properly, but it's one of my favorite images of Pluto, or for Pluto. I don't know the title of the art image by the artist. So here's an image of the living sky. And this is the date for the Pluto ingress, March 23rd. You can see that in here, March 23rd. Here's Pluto, the red lines. They don't show Pluto. I don't know why they don't show Pluto on Stellarium. All the other ones get labeled, maybe because it was removed from being a planet. Anyhow, so when Pluto's moving into Aquarius, for us, tropical, look where he is. He's just exiting Sagittarius, and he is heading to Capricorn. So that image of the sea goat from Saturn applies to Pluto, not just because Pluto's in Aquarius, a sign ruled by Saturn, but because actually Pluto's heading to actual Capricorn. And this part of the sky, once you get to Capricorn, we're heading into the watery constellations. We've got Capricorn, who's the sea goat. He's a goat with a tail. We've got Aquarius, the water bearer. We have Pisces, the fish. There's also Pisces austrinus, the southern fish. There's Eridanus, the river down here. We're heading into this watery part of the sky. And Pluto is just heading there, heading into the waters of Nun, the primordial waters of creation, the great mother's womb. So here are the cards for Pluto moving into Aquarius. We've got judgment for Pluto, and we talked about that. We've got the feminine. She's taller. She's receiving the inspiration from the heavens, and then she's sharing it with her divine masculine partner, her divine child. This is the sacred trinity of inner masculine, inner feminine, and then the divine child that can be born of the marriage of the two. And then the Aquarius card is the star card. And this center yellow star is Sirius. And the 7 white stars around it are the Pleiades, the 7 stars of the Pleiades. And then we've got the Fool card as the ruler, Uranus, of Aquarius. Also, World is also one of the ruling cards of Aquarius. So again, Judgment, Pluto, it is time. Are we ready to follow the call? Star card is the card of hope and healing, but it's also a card of star family and star consciousness and star gates. And the Fool, as Uranus, is about leaping into the unknown, having trust and faith. And interestingly, there's a serious association with this card too. The Fool is Orion. There's his belt. And there's Sirius, who's always at an angle from Orion following him. Sirius is the dog star. And I personally interpret this as the 3 levels of Sirius. We have Sirius, the actual star, the white sun. So it's the only white sun, if I'm recalling correctly, but definitely in the majors, in the deck. And then the white rose is also a Sirius symbol. And then we've got the white dog at his feet. So for me, this speaks to the time has come to wake up, to follow the stars, to start a new cycle based on peace, harmony, and unity. The feminine has to lead. And, you know, part of this is definitely remembering our star origins. And that's another conversation we can have at another time, but I'll just leave it at that. So Pluto moving into Aquarius, ruler is the Fool, and also the World and Saturn card. And it's a big activation of the age of Aquarius. Here is the Pluto Ingress chart for March 23rd, 2023, 8:14 a.m. Eastern time. What I first am struck with is Pluto is conjunct Hygeia. Hygeia is the goddess of healing and health. And she actually ingresses into Aquarius March 3rd. So 20 days later, when Pluto ingresses into Aquarius, they are widely conjunct. She leads Pluto into his new sign, of which he will officially be in 2020, end of 2024. And so there's a big focus here on what needs to be healed, what is out of balance, what is not supporting health and well-being of the planet, of the humans, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and otherwise. What's fascinating is Pluto does sextile the sun. And so there's this link as Pluto moves into this new sign with sun, sense of self, consciousness, but also sun just crossing over the equinox degree. This happens 2.5 days after the equinox. So it's a big equinox energy. We have Uranus as one of the rulers and Saturn as the other. And Saturn is still semi-sextile Pluto. Again, the crescent moon of the Saturn-Pluto cycle. Uranus, interestingly, what does he make? He makes over here, he's semi-square. Oh yeah, I don't want to forget this. The sun and Mars are square in this chart. The sun is in the sign of Mars, is square Mars at the karmic completion degree of Gemini. So Mars is actually now out of his back end shadow. He exits back end shadow March 15th. And then 8 days later, we've got Pluto moving into Aquarius. And this is highlighting that part of the Pluto and Aquarius transit is going to be about resolving the shadow of the masculine energy and how we run it in the world. You know, Aries is wonderful when it comes to agency and making things happen, but shadow Aries, especially when square to Mars at the karmic completion degree, can be combative, argumentative, you know, selfish, self-focused. This is coming at the world like the chariot, you know, I need to conquer, I need to take, this is mine. And that is part of what needs to be transformed with Pluto and Aquarius as the transit. And is there anything else that was kind of jumping out at me? I think that's enough for now. So it'll be interesting. You know, I had a dream last night. I actually had a bunch of dreams, but I couldn't remember most of them, which was really annoying. But the one I could remember was an astrology dream. And in the dream, there was a man, and he was Pluto in Aquarius. I just knew it in the dream. I was like, oh, fascinating. And for some reason, I had his pants, and he was gone. And I was looking at the like stitching in his pants, or the what is that called? You know, in the back of the pants where there's where it'll say the brand or whatever. I'm forgetting the name of it. Anyhow, and that thing that so it's bothering me now. I'm like, what the hell is it called? Tag. The tag in the back of the pants said transpersonal, and Pluto is a transpersonal planet. And I look at the pants, and they're completely beat up. They're dirty. They're ripped. Like, it looks like he just went through it, or was like in a battle, or like something. And that's all I could remember. And I woke up, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Like, I'm wondering if like Pluto and Aquarius is just going to be like, we need to be in the trenches, and there's things we're going to have to deal with. And it's, you know, but we need to remember the transpersonal perspective while still being human and in a body. That was my takeaway. Anyhow, I wish I could remember more, because there was actually more to the dream, but it did not come to my conscious mind. It's somewhere there in the unconscious. So in embodied astrology, Pluto governs the grail of power. There's 3 grails in the body: the grail of wisdom, the grail of love, and the grail of power. Grail of power is in your lower body. It's in your dantian or your hara, if you've heard of those terms. And Aquarius governs the ankles. And then the ruler Uranus is the grail of wisdom in the head. And then the co-ruler Saturn is the root chakra. So again, we're getting these images of like what's grounding us: the grail of power, the lower body, the ankles, which are right there by the feet, down on the ground, and then the root chakra of Saturn. But then we also have this grail of wisdom in the head that's receiving the inspiration from the cosmos. So the key to Pluto and Aquarius is taking the wisdom and the inspiration and the higher frequency and grounding it. It needs to be brought all the way down into the root, into the dantian, the lower body, the grail of power, grounded into your feet and ankles on the earth. And we need to make sure the heart leads, because wisdom and power that's not wielded with love can corrupt and be corrupted. And so the heart space is the antidote for us going in that direction. Here's a beautiful image, and I've never been able to find the artist, and I can only find this blurry version. A long time ago, I had a more crisp version. It's very evocative. So in astrology, in your shadow, Pluto has to do with power and the victim tyrant axis. And how do we relate to power? The shadow of Aquarius is emotional repression, going into the head, avoiding feeling in the heart, and avoiding feeling in our bodies. Another shadow of Aquarius is the shadow of group mind, and the shadow of technology, like the shadow of AI, artificial intelligence. You know, a few examples of that. I think I said this in my Age of Aquarius webinar, and that was like last year, I think. Was that last year? Yeah, I think so. Anyhow, right before I taught that webinar, I saw this article, and scientists were doing this experiment, an artificial intelligence experiment. They were taking a little chip, microchip, the size of a grain of rice, and implanting it in people's brains. And they were letting them choose their own emotions. So you could choose bliss, and then you'd feel bliss. And you could choose joy, and you'd feel joy. And it was literally trying to control emotions. Of course, is anybody going to choose grief or sadness or anger or rage? Probably not, you know, unless they're anger and rage, if they're trying to amp themselves up to go to war, perhaps. But the choosing your emotions, it really creeped me out. And another more recent example of artificial intelligence gone wild is the Lensa app. Have any of you seen that or done that? There is this app where you, I think you pay like $3.99 or something. I don't know. I didn't do it, but I was creeped out by it when I first saw it. And you have to upload 10 or 15 photos of yourself. And then the AI does something with them and then gives you all these like AI photographs of you. And they're very fantasy based. They're very idealistic. They very much sexualize the women in the imagery. But there's all the shadow behind it, because you actually sign away your rights to your own photos, and these AI images that are made of you could show up in video games. Also, the people who made this app sourced from real artists, people who devoted decades of their life to cultivating their craft, took from them, put it in the software algorithm, and then actually those artists' art are being used in the AI app, and they're not getting paid for it. And you can even see in some of the images, the artist's signature in the bottom right corner is all like messed up, and you can actually see hints of it. So this is some of the shadow of AI that we want to be aware of. One of the other things about AI is it's very exciting. And it's like, gives you this idea of, oh, I don't ever have to be sad again, or, oh, I can be immortal and live forever, or, oh, I can have these glamorous images made of me that, usually only, big celebrities can afford to do, because it's, not something that I've had, the money or the capacity to do. So it has this kind of captivation and this glamour to it. And we have to be aware of that, because it's going to be really easy to be led down the garden path with some of the AI tech that's coming now and incoming. Look at this image. There's a human angel, and she's holding the robot angel. He's cut himself off from water and earth, the feminine elements of body and soul, sensation and emotion. In trying to avoid these or control them, he has separated himself from nature, from Mother Earth, and from the feminine. He is like a vast wasteland, like the wounded fisher king in the Grail myth. The shadow of AI wants to control everything it deems chaotic and uncontrollable: emotions, the length of your life, even the soul and the spirit. So we want to be aware of this. And you see here, he is so sad and depressed, and she's trying to heal him. So the shadow of Pluto and Aquarius is AI taking over to escape the body, escape shadow, using mind control, group consciousness that goes wrong. There's other things about the shadow of Aquarius that I go into in the Age of Aquarius webinar, but I'll just touch on that now. The transformative power of Pluto and Aquarius is empowering group consciousness and humanity to make the changes that need to happen now. And it can be about a cathartic release. Remember, Pluto is catharsis, cathartic release of the waters of emotion repressed by our minds. Aquarius is the water bearer. He holds an urn or a chalice. Sometimes he is seen as a she of water. And there can be this release of what we hold. Not repression, but cathartic release. So that's on offer. Pluto Stargate, when Pluto ingresses into Aquarius, he's heading to Altair. Altair is from Aquila, often seen as the eagle constellation, but actually when you look into the myth, this used to be a vulture, and if it's an eagle, it's a golden eagle. It's not the eagle with the white head. It's at 2 degrees 5 minutes of Aquarius today. Pluto actually doesn't hit Altair until 2024, but the Ingress is going to start activating this Stargate by orb. Altair is a deeply mystical and occult star. It's connected to liberty and justice. Interestingly, Pluto will station exactly on Altair next May 2024. But we're going to start feeling this energy building now. So the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction degree. So remember 2020 was like this year of epic astrology. We had Saturn conjunct Pluto. We also had Pluto square Aries, both in January. We had the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees of Aquarius on winter solstice. Pluto is triggering that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction degree. That was the birth of the age of Aquarius. Previous to that, the baby was in the womb, the baby age. It was being gestated. It was being formed. It was here, yeah, but it was in the womb. It wasn't born yet. The birthing happened at that solstice with the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. The winter solstice mythologically is seen as a time of many sons of God and goddess being born, with the rebirth of the sun. And at that rebirth, we had a brand new Jupiter-Saturn cycle at the 1st degree of Aquarius. And so this is the next major activation of the 1st degree of Aquarius and of the age of Aquarius. That's a baby growing, getting to toddler stage maybe. The conjunction was at 0 degrees, 29 minutes of Aquarius. Pluto stations retrograde at 0:21. So the exact activation is next year, but it comes pretty darn close. So you're going to be feeling it this year too. And then Pluto and Gene Key 41. So I'm just touching on this briefly. I'm not a Gene Key teacher, but I've been studying them pretty in depth for a while. And it's been very powerful. I highly recommend you get this book. The text in here is like very esoteric and deeply mystical, and there's a lot of information. Gene Key 41 starts at 2 degrees of Aquarius and goes to 737 Aquarius. So Pluto doesn't hit it this year. Pluto actually hits it April 2024, but it's the prime emanation. It's the start code in human DNA, and it's called the gene key of origin. And processed alter. So the stars process, just like we precess and the ages precess, the ages move backwards and the stars process forward. So that's why it's process and precess. And process alter is actually in the 41st gene key of origin and prime emanation as of 6 years ago. Is currently alters at 2:05 today. So 5 seconds ago, which was 6 years ago in star movement, alter entered into this gene key. And so we're having Pluto head here. And that's going to be kind of a game-changing event, a reset, a restart, a whole new template for humanity coming in. It's, a good 5.5 degrees. So Pluto will be transiting that for probably 3 years, 2-3 years. I didn't actually check it to give you exact, but so we've got that coming in. And here are the dates for Pluto and Aquarius. You can screenshot or take a picture if you want. Pluto moves into Aquarius March 23rd, 2.5 days after the spring equinox or fall equinox if you're in the southern hemisphere. The April 20th total solar eclipse is at 29 Aries, and it's square Pluto at 29 Capricorn. And this is essentially triggering the Pluto nodal T-square that's coming later in August 3rd. That is a powerful eclipse. At the karmic completion degree, 29 Aries, it's a north node eclipse, although the north node doesn't move into, the nodes don't move into Libra and Aries until July 12th. That's on another slide. Pluto, any planet, when it's squaring the nodal axis, brings us to a crossroads. And we can choose if we're going to move into the north node of evolution and destiny and growth, or if we're going to keep staying stuck in the karmic patterns of the south node. And Pluto square amplifies the choice point there. Pluto stations retrograde at 0 degrees, 21 Aquarius, May 1st. We have Jupiter square Pluto on May 17th. And actually from the 17th through the 27th, Jupiter is going to be triggering the approaching Pluto nodal T-square. That can exacerbate power struggles and intensity, but also like really show us where the path forward is calling us, and it's now or never kind of events, personal, collective. Retrograde Pluto backtracks into Capricorn June 11th. And then, of course, Pluto squares the nodes August 3rd. Pluto will station direct October 10th. And I think it's the next one. Here we go. Pluto at the karmic completion degree. This is huge. This is this year, next year. So Pluto moves in a 29th degree of Capricorn on February 11th, and he'll be there till he moves into Aquarius, March 23rd. And then that eclipse squares 29 Capricorn, as I mentioned. Actually, no, sorry. Pluto will be, I made a mistake there. Pluto will be at 0 Aquarius, squaring that eclipse but it's close to 29 Capricorn. It's just 1 degree away. That's a typo. Pluto will move back into the 29th degree of Capricorn on June 11th. We'll be there till July 27th, and then moves in there again December 20th, just before the solstice. And we'll be there until January, late January 2024. So he goes back and forth from the first degrees of Aquarius and the last degrees of Capricorn until he finally moves into Aquarius for good, November of 2024. Now, why is this important? The 29th degree of any sign is called the anaretic degree. I call it the karmic completion degree. The first degree of a sign is like the new moon. It's the birth. It's the beginning. The last degree of a sign is the dark of the moon. It's the end. It's the death and the transition. So when a planet is at the last degree of a sign, everything and anything about that planet's transit through that sign that's unresolved, hasn't been addressed, hasn't been completed, hasn't been dealt with, comes up in very intense fashion. Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008, and he has been exposing all the shadow in the foundations, structures, traditions, expectations of our lives, in our government, big business, and the patriarchal institutions that have proliferated all over the planet. It's been a doozy of a Pluto transit. And Pluto at the karmic completion degree is going to take that up a few notches, because whatever is still unaddressed and needs to be dealt with before Pluto officially moves into Aquarius for good is going to come up in the next couple of years. This is important for the United States of America. So we're in our Pluto return, and our progressed Pluto in the progressed chart of the United States is at 29 degrees and 30 minutes of Capricorn. So this year and into 2024, we're actually having Pluto return in our progressed chart. And the karmic completion degree with Pluto shows up in the United States progressed chart. I have a whole blog on this, so you can find it under Astrology blog, or you can also put in the search tab USA Pluto return. Interestingly, for the United States, progressed Pluto will be at the karmic completion degree in the progressed chart until 2050. And then in 2050, progressed Pluto moves into 0 Aquarius. So with Pluto in Aquarius at 0 Aquarius, we can start seeing the rebirth of this nation that's going to fully come into being by 2050. But from now until then, it's the portal of transformation. And these next 2 years are huge. The Saturn-Pluto conjunction is interesting in light of Saturn ingressing and Pluto ingressing in the same month into new signs. Again, this is a nod back to that cycle that began, and there was a deeply positive and a deeply shadowy potential inherent in that conjunction. You know, Saturn is mastery and Pluto is power. And in Capricorn, you know, it's like gaining greater mastery in how we transform the structures and traditions in our personal and collective lives so that they are life affirming and they are evolutionary and they are helping us transform, right? But the shadow of Saturn and Pluto, Saturn is controlling and securing power, and Pluto is like wanting to have power over everyone. And this can be about big business and governments trying to rigidly, dogmatically, even violently oppress people into, you know, fear and oppression. And so I have a blog. I think I have a blog about the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. I know I did a whole webinar on it for winter solstice with Sienna Sherman, but I think I have a blog on it. Anyhow, you can search my website. So Pisces and Aquarius, these last 2 signs in tropical astrology, they're deeply transpersonal signs. And they're about, you know, Aquarius is about community and the collective, and Pisces is about compassion and unconditional love. And these 2 signs are deeply connected to spirituality and humanity. And so we've got, you know, this ingress activating these 2 essences. Interestingly, we also just moved out of the age of Pisces and into the age of Aquarius. So we have Saturn, the great pruning shears, entering into Pisces, cutting us, away from any ties left to that age. And then we have Pluto moving into Aquarius, empowering us to move into the new age fully with no ties to the past. Now, the Aries activation that's coming, this is the sign of action and initiation, drive, also ego and anger and will and aggression. He is the god of war, so he governs war and violence and selfishness. This image is by I forgot to write it down, Ash Barber. And I thought it was really beautiful. He has like the cosmic, even kind of nebulas in the horns of the Aries ram. So Jupiter's at the 1st degree of Aries today at 1 degree, 12 minutes of Aries. And he blazes through all 29 other degrees of Aries until May 16th. He moves into Taurus for good. So we got like a crazy, like, let's, put the pedal to the metal and go 80 miles per hour. We're just cruising through almost all 30 degrees of Aries with Jupiter. And keep in mind, right in the very beginning of the year, January 20th, Jupiter comes closest to the sun in his 12-year orbit. So that's amplifying the Aries energy. We've got Jupiter in Aries, Chiron in Aries, Eris. The North Node will enter Aries, the total solar eclipse at 29 Aries. So much happening. And of course, where Aries is in your chart, you're getting all this energy. My 2023 yearly horoscopes are up, so you can hear it there. So the Aries cards, Aries is the emperor, and the ruler of Aries is Mars, and Mars is the tower. So Aries, the emperor card is the great patriarch, the authority, the one who, governs the traditions, the rules, the laws of society. Positively, this card is about stability, structure, and order. But the shadow of this card is corruption and authoritarianism. The Tower is a card most people are afraid of. It speaks to being imprisoned in a tower of illusion or repression or dogma. And then along comes the lightning bolt, which can be illumination, but it can also be just destruction. And it shatters us awake and shocks us to our core. So these two together can be about destruction and upheaval, and also awakening and freedom. And I, notice there's this crown on the top of the head of the emperor. The crown is falling off the top of the tower. The man here, his crown is gone. The woman still has her crown on, interestingly. These are little things you pay attention to in the tarot. In embodied astrology, Aries rules the head. We can be headstrong, raring for a fight. We can also be tenacious, have great agency. We can move ahead and make things happen. Agency's in there twice. Forgot to edit it. What do we need to take a stand for? What do we need to set into motion? Where is it time to start something? Again, there's this juxtaposition with the top of the body, Aries of the head, and then remember Uranus, the grail of wisdom, at odds with all this lower body stuff. Saturn at the root, Pisces at the feet, Pluto, the grail of power in the lower body, Aquarius, the ankles. So we want to ground this power, or it will run us roughshod. It has to be anchored and embodied. Here are the Jupiter and Aries aspects. Jupiter is at perihelion, closest to sun, January 20th. Jupiter harmoniously links with the North Node in a minor aspect, but tensely aspects the South Node in Scorpio, February 10th. This can be a time to pay attention to where we're overdoing that Mars energy, because Mars rules both Aries and Scorpio. The anger, the aggression, the selfishness. Where is our destiny showing us the path forward? What needs to be dealt with? Jupiter conjunct Chiron is huge, March 12th. This is all about healing around the Aries archetype. Some of us overdo Aries. We're aggressive, combative, selfish, immature, argumentative. It's all about me and what I want. Some of us repress our Aries. And so we can't express our anger. We have lack of agency. We can't, make things happen. We have a hard time standing up for ourselves, saying no, setting boundaries. Each of us has an honest self-check-in about where the healing needs to happen with the Jupiter-Chiron conjunction. And interestingly, both of them are semi-square to Saturn at 0 Pisces. We also have Jupiter semi-sextile Uranus. This is great, actually, for brilliance and genius and invention and downloads coming in. And then Jupiter semi-square Saturn. March 21st. And that can be tension, between Jupiter just wants to go for it, and Saturn is reining us in. We have Jupiter conjunct Eris, the activism warrior goddess, on April 23rd, which can be a great time to take a stand for truth, personally and collectively. Jupiter will semi-sextile Neptune, a nice harmonious aspect between the two spiritual planets, on May 2nd. And then Jupiter moves into Taurus for good, May 16th. And the Aries eclipses in the North Node in Aries, dates to be aware of. If you can screenshot this or take a picture. That eclipse at 29 Aries, and it's actually square Pluto at 0 Aquarius, because Pluto just moved into Aquarius, so that was my bad. But it's still right there by 29 Capricorn. The nodes of the moon move North Node into Aries, South Node into Libra, July 12th. And that's going to be a shift of our path of destiny and growth and our path of karma. North Node in Aries is telling us we need to start something. We need to make things happen. We need to, grab our agency and move forward. Aries is a sign that does not need to wait around for other people to motivate him. He's like, I'm doing it, and I'm doing it now, and I'm doing it before anybody else does it too. Libra South Node, the karma is going to be around relying on other people to motivate ourselves, over focusing on others at the expense of ourselves, being in relationships that are codependent, that are not actually helping us move into the North Node Aries path, too much sweeping things under the carpet, not expressing our anger and dealing with things head on, highlighted by this nodal journey. It'll be 19 months. Pluto squares the nodes of the moon August 3rd. I spoke to that. Neptune will quincunx the karmic South Node September 22nd. And that can exacerbate that shadow of the Libra South Node of codependency, keeping the peace at any cost, sweeping things under the carpet, self-sacrificing too much. That's where the Aries will come in and help us, because Aries is like, hey, wait a minute. What about me? And people who are codependent and over focusing on everyone else, they actually need to stop looking at everyone else and look at themselves and see what they need. Now, some people, all they do is look at themselves. They have a different lesson. They need to look at other people and be aware. And so honest self-check-ins. The annular solar eclipse on October 14th is in Libra, but it's opposite Eris on the North Node. And Eris conjunct the North Node is 7 days later, October 21st. So that's a big eclipse activating the goddess of discord and chaos, but also the activist and the warrior who's on the North Node of destiny. So stop placating, stop sweeping things under the carpet. It's time to take action. I'll have a lot more to say about these eclipses as we get to them. The Taurus activation, this is the Venus ruled sign. It's a sign of sensuality, embodiment, enjoying being in a body and being on this blessed earth. It's an abundant sign. It's creative, musical. It has the power of attraction. The shadow of Taurus is it hoards. The I statement for Taurus is mine, or no, what is it? I have. And, it's like the toddlers when they go, mine, mine. That's the shadow of Taurus. So we're like hoarding. It's mine. There can be an entitlement to Taurus as well. So we want to be aware of that. Jupiter moves into Taurus for good, May 16th. And we don't just have Jupiter there after that, but the North Node will be there in the beginning until the nodes move into new signs in July. Uranus is there. There's some eclipses there as well. Here's a gorgeous image of the Taurus bull by artist unknown. So the cards for Jupiter and Taurus, the Hierophant is the Taurus card, and the Empress is the Venus card, and Venus rules Taurus. It's an interesting juxtaposition. So the Hierophant is the Pope or the High Priest. So it would be the male counterpart to the High Priestess card. And it's a card of education, tradition, church, doctrine. And interestingly, Jupiter, when he was in Aries, was the Emperor card for Aries, which is the father figure. The Hierophant is also a father figure, but it's the spiritual father figure. And the thing about the Hierophant is we want tradition and doctrine to lead us, to give us structure and form, but there can be times that we actually have to walk away from things like that so that we can ask our own questions, find our own truth, and not stay stuck in a dogma. So it has its beauty and it has its, issues. Venus is the Empress. This can be about shifting our doctrine of the masculine way of being, dominating, controlling. Even the Hierophant is seen as like the gatekeeper of spiritual wisdom. He lets it out when he feels like it. And you have to come through him to get to God or get to the divine. Whereas Venus, the Empress, is merged with nature. She is fertility and fecundity. She's the goddess in the land. She's the goddess in the body. And so this can be about shifting our doctrine to the feminine way of being. Venus is the fertile mother, the Empress Venus, and she is a card of feeling, emotion, sensuality, and passion. So Jupiter moving into Taurus, we're activating the Empress qualities here. In embodied astrology, Taurus rules the throat and our voice. So where do we need to use our voice? What words need to be said, but also heard? What blockages in our throat chakra are ready to be cleared? It's a great time to use all manner of things to open the throat, like singing, toning, mantra, sound healing. And again, we have another image. Aries is head, Taurus is throat. So we have these upper body energies juxtaposed with all the lower body energy of Saturn and Pluto. So again, it's about integration. Here's the Jupiter and Taurus aspects. Jupiter moves into Taurus for good May 16th. Jupiter squares Pluto May 17th, and at the very first degree of Taurus and Aquarius. And then Jupiter co-joins the North Node May 27th. That's a big one. Jupiter, the planet of expansion, positivity, growth, aligning with the node of destiny and evolution. Sometimes the nodes are often conceived of as the North Node has a Jupiter quality and the South Node has a Saturn quality, because the North Node is Dharma, where you're meant to grow, and Jupiter is expansive, and the South Node is Karma, and Saturn is the Lord of Karma. And so Jupiter on the North Node is huge. And wherever the Taurus part of your chart is, there's like a big boost by this year. And I talked about it in the horoscopes. So from the 17th to the 27th, Jupiter is triggering the Pluto nodal T-square that happens August 3rd. So you want to pay attention to what's coming in that month, about where the turning points are and where you're being called forward. And now's the time. And you got to like cut the karmic threads with old behavior patterns, maybe people, places, things. The Jupiter-Saturn sextile I talked about, that's on the 19th of June. Jupiter will semi-square Neptune July 22nd, the two spiritual planets in tense aspect. We want to be aware of checking out or overindulging. That's actually one of the shadows of Jupiter and Taurus is overindulgence. Too much sugar, too much spending, too much, pleasure from a place of obsession, not from a healthy place of pleasure. Jupiter stations retrograde on September 4th at 1543 Taurus, activating the solar Beltane degree, which is the solar gate of Beltane, which is when the sun crosses 15 degrees of Taurus, which is about May 5th. It's different than calendar Beltane, which is usually seen as May 1st. There's a partial lunar eclipse on October 28th. It's at 509 Taurus. It's conjunct Jupiter widely, but it's there. Jupiter's at like 11 degrees, I think. And then we have Jupiter semi-square Neptune again on the 5th, and then Jupiter finally stations direct December 30th, and we'll be in Taurus the rest of the year. And then next year we'll start, to move into Gemini. So solar Beltane, we have very big activations of the Beltane degree. We did last year, we do this year. Uranus has been transiting 15 Taurus from 2020 to 2023. The North Node aligned with 15 Taurus in 2022. This year, when Uranus stations direct January 22nd, this month, it's exactly on the Beltane degree by, I think, like 3 minutes. Thought I'd written the exact degree down, but I think it's like 1456 or 57 Taurus. And then there's a solar Beltane lunar eclipse on May 5th. We actually have a lunar eclipse on solar Beltane opposite Uranus. And then Jupiter stations, as I mentioned on the previous slide, And so what is solar beltane? First of all, I just want to talk about, first and foremost, I have a blog. It's called The Winds of Change Are Blowing, Moving from Fixed to Mutable. You can look for it on my website. What has been enduring, what we thought would never change, is now shifting. So the fixed cross is actually mutable now. The 4 royal fixed stars, as they're called, they're all immutable tropical now. They're not fixed anymore. It's a mutable cross. And so we are in the midst of huge shift and change. And in the Thema Mundi chart of creation of the universe, like there's this chart that is the birth chart of when all of the universe was created. And you can see all the visible planets in it, sun, moon, all the way through Saturn. And each of them are positioned at the 15th degree of the sign they rule. So like the sun is at 15 Leo. The moon is at 15 Cancer. Mercury is 15 Virgo. They're all in a row. So Cancer, Leo, Virgo. And then we have Venus at 15 Libra. And so the 15th degree is this like fullness point of the sign. Solar Beltane is the gate of fertility and abundance. It's mid-spring, and it's that time when we see like the flowers blooming, the bees buzzing, and the animals copulating. I mean, it's spring, it's like life has fully returned to the planet. I live in Asheville now, and it's striking to see Samhain and winter. Like, I've always lived on the West Coast. I spent some time in Sedona too, but and a little bit of time in Colorado, but wherever I've lived, we always usually had evergreen trees. There'll be some areas with pretty fall leaves, but here the whole entire mountain is like, the leaves fell off. And so my whole backyard, it's just these scraggly trees with no leaves. And it's such a striking image. And so at spring, we start seeing life return. I'm going to see the green leaves coming back on these naked trees, and then at Beltane, it'll be full throttle, flowers everywhere, birds, bees. It's going to be unmistakable life. And so as Beltane is the gate of fertility and abundance, and then all these activations of it, there are huge changes happening on the fertility of life, of earth, of nature. Let's make them positive changes, please, because we're really at a crossroads and we've got a few options here. On a personal level, Taurus has to do with self-worth and self-love, also has to do with values. So this can be about huge shift in values that we all need to access and anchor into on an individual and collective level in order to make the changes that need to happen for the earth. So there's many ways to kind of tune into it, but it's significant. And you can check my blog that speaks to this energy. All the Mercury retrogrades this year are in earth signs, starting with the one we have right now. Mercury actually stations direct January 18th. He does so in a double quincunx to Mars, the 17th through the 20th. So it's a doozy of a direct station. Read my blog for more about it. I'm not going into detail about these Mercury retrogrades because I do that in my monthly forecasts and weekly forecasts and horoscopes. And it's just a lot of stuff to be talking about, 9 months from now. But I did want to give you the dates, and I want to talk about an overall energy. With all of them in earth signs, this is a time to rethink, review, and revise how we relate to the earth, how we relate to the earthy, mundane 3D realities in our life. Capricorn governs career and life purpose and our work in the world. Taurus governs money and finances and values. Virgo governs our health and our body and our service that we provide in the world. So we need to, go over these mundane aspects of life, work, career, health, well-being, finances, abundance. And it's a time to deal with things that are unresolved, to make changes, to complete things, to let go so we can move into new cycles. And it's, all year long. They don't even dip into, because sometimes it'll station in earth retrograde, but it'll actually go direct in fire at the very end. It's all in earth this year. Earth, earth, earth. So screenshot this picture here for your dates. This is just an image of the earth signs. This is Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. They got it right. They gave him a tail. So we want to rethink, review, revise how we relate to our bodies and our health, our work, our career, our money and resource. And this is actually kind of a big thing for humanity, right? Because look at what's going on with the earth. This pursuit of money at all costs, amassing things, the toxins in our air, water, and food affecting our health, working and doing jobs that are maybe traditional, expected, but are not like feeling like a calling. These are things we can be revisioning and revising this year. We also have a Venus retrograde. Venus stations retrograde on Mary Magdalene's feast day, July 22nd, at 28 degrees, 36 minutes of Leo. She will station Quincunx Pluto, the lord of the underworld, in Capricorn. He'll be in Capricorn at that moment. And the Sun-Venus conjunction is on August 13th. It starts a brand new Venus cycle. It's the inferior conjunction of Venus. I have felt inspired for a couple of years now to do a Venus journey, and it's very possible that I'll be doing it with this one. It's been coming forward. I've been deeply studying the Venus cycle for 9 years now, 9 or 10 years. So I've been through one whole 8-year Venus cycle. Venus has her smaller cycle, which is like 1.5 years, and then she has an 8-year cycle. And so stay tuned. Make sure you're on my newsletter list. I'll announce it there. Her conjunction, inferior conjunction, is square Jupiter and Uranus, both in Taurus. And then she stations direct September 3rd at 12:12 Leo, and then she'll be square Jupiter. And so, this is an interesting retrograde in Leo. Here's a beautiful image Susie made for me. You can see this is the Venus flower. This is the cycle she makes every 8 years. These are her retrograde stations. And then she makes 5 petals of the flower of Venus, or the star of Venus. So Venus retrograde is a time to reevaluate things, our values, our finances, our relationships, our choices, our patterns, our paradigms, our self-worth and self-love. In Leo, reevaluating our creativity, our authentic self-expression. It's an amazing time to be with the question, am I truly living from the truth of my heart? And if I'm not, what am I ready, willing, and able to do about it? Venus, with this inferior conjunction square Uranus, demands change. And Uranus, of course, is in the sign of Venus. And so there's a change in values that needs to happen, what we hold on to that does not serve. These are fixed signs. Leo is fixed fire, Taurus is fixed earth, and fixed signs kind of like to hold on. It's the middle of the season. And so it needs to hold on. It's like the fullness of the season, but the shadow of that is it doesn't want to let go. And this could be a big time of needing to let go. And then last but not least, Mars retrograde, which is at the very start of this year. He actually stationed retrograde last year, but he stations direct on January 12th. I have a whole blog on him. I'm just going to mention it briefly right now. These are the aspects that happen this year. He finally exits back in shadow March 15th. His third and final square to Neptune is on the 14th. And that was a defining signature of the whole Mars retrograde. Mars has been in Gemini, so it's about communication and information and thinking and perception. And with the Neptune squares, there's been a lot of illusion, confusion, deception, escapism, media manipulation, things not being all above board. And there's been a need to go deeper than the surface to get to the truth, starting with ourselves, also with others in the world around us. Luckily, he has been making great aspects to the Aries planets, Chiron and Eris. So on offer has been this healing energy around finding the power of our voice, being able to see and deal with the truth. It's definitely there. And then Mars actually trines Saturn for 3 times, but the third one is after the back end shadow with Mars in Cancer and Saturn in Pisces. So it's a whole different energy than the first 2. It's in the water signs. It's about, taking action based on our creativity, our intuition, our spirituality. If you want to learn more about Mars retrograde, check my blog. And in a moment, or in a little bit, I have a few links to blogs that I'm just going to put in the comments in Facebook, and you can click through there. Otherwise, I will include all these links in the reposting of the video on my website. So this will be reposted probably tonight. And if Zoom sends it to me in time, and it'll be under, if you just go to divineharmony.com and then look in the toolbar cosmic insight, and then go down to yearly forecast, and you'll see it there. So I wanted to take this time, just a few moments, to tell you about my Foundations of Astrology class that's starting January 4th. So in 3 days, on the sun perihelion date, which was not intentional at all, but of course it's guiding it because it's a serious Stargate. In this class, it's a 5-week class, and I teach the planets, asteroid goddesses, signs, houses, and major aspects. It's a very deep dive class. So it's from my background in depth psychology, mythology, archetype, symbolism. I like to teach astrology in a way where you feel it. I don't know, this is how I learned astrology. So I'm self-taught first and foremost. I read a ton of books, but I didn't have a teacher until actually like 10 years into my studies. And so what I did when I was learning astrology is I would learn to feel it, like to the point where I could actually feel essences of people, usually rising signs, but sometimes the sun sign or the moon sign. I could just feel the archetype of the energy in people. And I would watch movies and I would break it down. I'd be like, he's, the Pluto character and she's Venus, or he's the sun and she's Uranus. And I could just see the archetypes at play in the movie screen, and I would see it in books too. It was how I learned to take the knowledge of the information of astrology and then bring it down in an embodied way. And I just kind of did it, I wung it or whatever. I don't know. I actually know I've been an astrologer in previous lifetimes, so I think it was just remembering. But anyhow, so I've had brand new students take this class. Obviously, it's a foundations class, but I've also, to my own surprise, initially had people who had been studying astrology for 10, 15, 20 years take this class. And I've had professional astrologers take my class and give me testimonials for it. So it's apparently a great deep review if you know your astrology as well. For those that are here today, I have an offer where if you sign up for the class, you'll get my Age of Aquarius and Sirius Masterclasses for free. I will put that link in Facebook in a second because navigating a bunch of things at once is a little difficult. Here's just a few testimonials. As someone who's studied astrology for years, I still get so much out of Harmony's Foundations class because of the psychological and spiritual perspective she teaches from. It brings these astrological teachings to a much deeper level and connects right with the soul. Amazing class, amazing teacher. Melika. Hi, Melika, I love you. I just want to say that I'm thrilled to be in your astrology classes. You're really an excellent teacher. It's one thing to know your stuff. It's another to be able to offer and teach it. All the material is rich, welcomed, and appreciated. Deborah. Thank you, Deborah. I love teaching. It's like my joy. And last but not least, Meredith. I see Divine Harmony as one of those rare astrology teachers who's tapped into the pulse of the stars and is able to unlock the messages and mysteries so that more of us can remember that our DNA sings in the forgotten language of our ancestors, so we can be who we truly are, star children walking the bridge, heaven and earth. Meredith is definitely a soul sister of mine and has a very beautiful way of writing. So come and join if you feel to. Just a few other things to be aware of. I have class series available on demand. Astrology in Your Shadow is on demand. Embodied Astrology, Intermediate Level 1 and 2. Stargate Mystery School ends in April, and it's probably going to go on demand afterwards. I'm not sure if I'm going to teach it again live. I don't know yet. I just have a lot of other classes I want to teach, and not enough time to do it all. So we'll see. Masterclasses available on demand. Eris, the archetype of the 21st century, anchoring the age of Aquarius. Sirius, the spiritual son of our sun. Regulus into Virgo, and 8/8 Lionsgate are all available through my website. And then there's a membership, and the yearly horoscopes are up. So if you sign up now, you get access to them, as well as the weekly horoscopes that'll be up tomorrow, and the gate call that I just had for solstice, and the lunar gate call for the new moon. You can check it out. It's going to be in a link that I'm about to post. And just for anybody who wants to know, my mentorship program is going to start probably mid-spring. I'm thinking in like late April or May. And Foundations of Astrology is a prerequisite to be part of that if you have any interest. I am going to be doing an embodied tarot course. I've had a ton of people ask. Obviously, you saw me weave the tarot into the teachings here. I've been doing this for years. I love the tarot. I started studying it in 2008. 2008. Yeah, it was 2008. And it's so rich and it's amazing to merge with astrology. Anyhow, it's been clear that I'm supposed to do it. So I'll be doing that sometime this year. And I've been called to do the Venus journey. And so more will come out, as we get closer to August. And I'm going to do an Egypt pilgrimage, and it looks like it's going to be in December. And I will know for sure more in the next week, and I will be sending out information on this. So make sure you sign up for my newsletter list. That's where I send everything out. And Star Family is a free community space that's connected to my online classroom. I've kind of mostly transitioned all my social media posts to this community. I've just had issues with the social media gatekeeping and just the stuff that's happened. So anyhow, I am going to include all these links. How do I do this? In the chat on Facebook. And I'm going to also put them on the replay on my website. I usually get people asking, oh, can I give you a donation? So I also have the link for that. It's on my website too. I do a lot of like free big webinars, and then inevitably I get a bunch of emails going, I would like to give you a donation. So I'm just now sharing that. So thank you. If you want to, it's not required. And yeah, so now I'm going to check in on the chat, and then I was going to close with a guided meditation. So I thought this was going to be 2 hours, including the guided meditation. And we're at like 7 minutes to 2 hours, and we haven't even gotten to the guided meditation. So, but we are going to do it. So I just want to check in and maybe just say hi. Maybe I'll just do that. I thought I would take questions, but I'm now realizing that Facebook kind of delays the comments, and I'm seeing myself in a delay. So I don't know if I can actually take questions, because I don't know if they're going to come in properly in a way where, like, yeah, I think that I've never done this. I've never live streamed on Facebook and YouTube while being on Zoom. So this is new for me, and thank you for coming. So we're going to move into the guided meditation. I'm not recording this as like a download that you can have as an audio. I am recording it on the video that we're doing right now. And so if you have to hop off, you can do the meditation by finding this video on my website under yearly forecasts when I get it up later tonight, latest tomorrow. And then you can just scroll to the end and do the meditation. And it's a meditation with Sirius, as we head into the Sirius Stargate, with Sirius culminating at midnight on January 4th. The sun the sun at perihelion, meaning Earth closest to the sun, on January 4th is opposite Sirius. And when the sun is aphelion, so the sun is furthest from Earth, that's actually when the sun is conjunct Sirius. So the Sirius stargates are intimately connected to the sun-Earth relationship. And there's a reason for that. That's because Sirius is the spiritual sun of our sun, and we're in binary star relationship with it. And I go over that very in depth in the Sirius Masterclass. If you come join Foundations of Astrology, you'll get that as a free gift for signing up. But if you're just interested in the Masterclass, it's in one of those links I just posted under classes. So let's get ready to be in a meditative space. I'm just getting myself positioned here. Oh, I meant to put all that. Hold on. One other, I'm going to put a bunch more links of blogs in Facebook real quick here, and then we'll head into our guided meditation. So I referenced a ton of different blogs there. They're all here, like the Mars retrograde blog, the Mercury retrograde blog, whatever else. You lost the list of links. Oh, okay. I don't know why. Here we go. Let's do it again. And you know what? Maybe there's a way. I wonder if there's a way. I might try to I don't know if I can do it now. Edit. When I'm done with the live video, I don't want to do it now because I'm afraid it'll screw something up. I'll add the links into the body of the restream so that you don't have to try and find it in the chat. Hopefully that makes sense to anybody. Do you see them? They should have gone through. Oh, thank you, Franklin. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move into the guided meditation. I take my video off. You should have your eyes shut, but I take my video off. So I'm just telling you, there's this gorgeous image of Sirius here that can give you inspiration for this meditation. So I'm just getting myself positioned here. All righty. So you may do this seated upright or laying down, whatever is most comfortable for you. The ideal position for any meditation is when your chakras are in alignment. So vertically in alignment, seated, horizontally laying down. You just want a free flow of energy between root and crown. Of course, when you lay down, sometimes you fall asleep, but that's not a problem. You'll get maybe some downloads that come through the dream space. You can do the meditation again at any time. So pick whatever is most comfortable for you and know that it is perfect. So if you have not closed your eyes already, please close them and bring awareness to your breath. Breathing in and out. Maybe doing a few rounds of that with audible sound, inhaling and exhaling with a sigh. Just releasing any old or excess energy, releasing any mental energy. We just had a lot of information, teachings, very mentally activating space. And right now we want to let all of that go and just drop fully down into the body, being present with the breath, feeling the rise and the fall of your chest and your belly, the rhythmic breath of life. Now bring awareness to your root and where it touches the ground or the chair or the bed or the earth beneath you. And feel the tippy top of your head in your crown chakra. Feel it open to the cosmos above. Maybe put your hands on your heart, feeling your heartbeat and feeling this bridge in your own being between earth below and heaven above, between the terrestrial and the celestial. Just bring full presence to the experience of being a spiritual being, having a human experience. Now bring awareness to the tippy top of your head and your crown chakra. And visualize yourself going up and out through your crown into the heavens above as you ascend to the stars. Feel the stellar light and higher frequency of the cosmos pulsate all around you. It's as though you're swimming through the stars, weaving a web of love and light as you fly past our own moon and sun and planets, making your way out beyond our solar system, finding your way all the way to Sirius, the spiritual sun of our sun. This magnificent, brilliant star is full of love, light, and wisdom. And you weave the star's light into your being, your light body that is flying in the cosmos. And then you weave that starlight all the way back down through the night sky, through the atmosphere, down back to Earth, and feel viscerally this light pierce through and enter into your crown chakra. The Sirius starlight comes into your body and starts to descend, moving through your crown chakra and filling your cranium and brain and head, activating your third eye and moving down to fill your neck and throat and voice, activating your throat chakra, descending further down into your shoulders and your chest and your back, down your arms to the tips of your fingers. The starlight fills your body and illuminates your heart chakra, the center of your chest. The Sirian starlight descends further, filling all of your organs with this luminous stellar light, activating your solar plexus, feeling it shine like 10,000 suns. And the light descends even further into your pelvic bowl, all your organs there, your womb or your hara, feeling your second chakra activated. And the light descends even further, all the way to your root, through your legs, to the bottoms of your feet. Your whole entire body is illumined with light. Now feel this light descend through your root and go down below the floor or earth beneath you, going deep and deeper still, making its way all the way to the heart womb of Mother Earth. You anchor this light stream from the heavens through your body into the heart womb of Gaia. Feel this deep connection of heaven and earth, celestial and terrestrial, above and below. And feel yourself as the sacred chalice, the bearer of the sacred waters of life, the waters of creation. You are the temple. You are the chalice. You are the physical embodiment of the waters of life. You come from these waters. You are these waters. You contain these waters. And you honor these waters. You are the Grail Maiden or the Grail Knight. In the Grail mysteries, one of the questions to ask is, how can I serve the Grail? Ask this question right now and listen for the answer that comes from deep within you. Whatever comes forth is your instruction right now, and it can evolve over time and over the years. In front of you appears a gift, something unique for you. It could be a symbol, a word, a color, a crystal, a token, a sound tone, a frequency, something else that symbolizes your commitment to serving the Grail. This is something that's a reminder of your own unique path in this life and your connection to Sirius. And it's a gift that is a reminder of what it means to be the Grail bearer or the Grail Knight, and of what it means to be a spiritual being having a human experience. You take this gift and you put it somewhere for safekeeping. You could put it somewhere in your body, in a chakra, in the palms of your hand, in your third eye, your heart, wherever feels called, or you could tuck it away in your pocket. Now bring awareness to the axis of light that reaches up into the heavens and forms a web of light and comes through your body, through your chakras, and anchors deep into the heart, womb, core of Mother Earth. Feel your connection to above and below, the cosmos and the earth. Feel the enlightenment of the stars and your higher self. And feel the embodiment of anchoring that light and love in your body temple, in your physical experience, and being an anchor to bring that all the way deeply into Mother Earth. You are source, coming from source, connecting to source and returning. You are that which you have been seeking for. Wake up to the divinity within and remember who you are. Blessed be.